I have to admit, I'm out of sorts right now. I'm in my own head.
What's wrong, Tim? Young Philly break your heart?
Well played. Actually, literally right at this moment, I'm out of sorts because every single day I bring in a pen into the studio and I have it in my hand as I talk, and I forgot a pen today, so I feel a little naked. Feel like when you leave the house and you don't have phone wallet keys, one of your pockets are empty,
yeah,
and you're just like, oh no.
Whoa, hold on. Wait a second.
But that's not really why I'm off. I'm off because I broke one of the rules I have for this radio show this week. And I'm going to come clean, I'm going to apologize, and then we're going to fix it because I'm a solutions guy, which is exactly the problem I had. I'm sorry for the whining about UNC basketball this week. I did a lot of whining. I did a lot of pointing out everything that was wrong with the University of North Carolina basketball team over their last 5 games. I did a lot of this isn't going well, that isn't going well. RJ Davis isn't efficient enough at 2-point shooter, and Cormac Ryan this, and why didn't they do all these things? I just did a lot of whining. They lost 3 of 5, and one of the 2 wins in that section was actually a really shaky win over Miami. I did a lot of whining. I was a problem guy, and I was not a solutions guy. So this is an apology right here. I'm sorry. I'm going to get back to my roots, which is when you bring up a problem, you better have a solution. I was told that very early on in my career, and I think it applies to not just radio, just about every career that I have any experience in, right? If you're going to present a problem to somebody, it's smart to have a solution, right? You go to your boss, hey, big catastrophe. This is happening on the Watkins account, but I've already thought it through, and here are 2 potential solutions. That's going to go a lot further with your boss than if you just run up going, the Watkins count is a disaster. So, North Carolina, big problems. I'm not here for the everybody has ebbs and flows. When you were the number 3 team in the country and then you lose 3 of 5, you need a solution. And especially when the 3 of 5 are to not the biggest and baddest opponents in the world, right? If they just happen to play top 10 teams 5 consecutive, it'd be one thing. But Georgia Tech is not a terrifying opponent, right? Most recently, Syracuse is not a terrifying opponent. So here's my solution. Play inside out. I think it's simple. Play inside out. Make your priority establishing the guys down low. Whether it's Bacot, whether it's Withers, Washington, whether it's Ingram, if he's playing that role for that game. Sometimes he's on the perimeter, sometimes he's more in the paint. If he's a paint guy that game and in that particular game plan, get him involved down low. Play inside out. And that's not to say the guys on the perimeter take the night off. It's no different than going into a football game saying we want to establish the run or we want to get things open with the pass. You just go in with a different kind of first step. Then you build everything else off of it. But when a team is playing outside in, or when this team was playing outside in, I should say, and it was working earlier this year, I was fine with it. And you know who else was fine with it? Armando Bacot. You know who else was fine with it? Harrison Ingram and the rest of the bigs. They were, okay, cool, we're an outside-in team. It's not working anymore. So flip it, reverse it. RJ Davis will be okay, trust me. He'll get more open shots. Won't have to work so darn hard. Go down low. It's to use another cross-sport analogy here, it's the body blows of the boxing world, right? Go into the post. That's like going into the body in a boxing match. Get the opposing team's bigs in foul trouble. Get the opposing team's bigs tired out, and then use that to get your flamethrowers on the perimeter, your RJ Davises open, right? Then go set a high pick and roll and watch a tired big have to hedge on RJ Davis coming downhill with the ball, and gosh forbid they sag off and let that guy take a 3.
It's like pounding a team with a run constantly, then you hit them play action when they're worn down. Before you know it, it's like a 50-yarder.
And exactly, that's the best example. And it's you know, you'll see the Chiefs establish the run over a first quarter, right? You'll see the Bengals establish the run over a first quarter. Teams that they got Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, right? You would expect them to be a passing team, but sometimes it's like, hey, passing game needs a little help from the running game, and then you can unleash the beast. UNC just needs to, it's if RJ Davis in this scenario is the Mahomes or the Burrow, you just establish the guys down low and then unleash the beast. RJ Davis and Cormac Ryan and Trimble and I mean, we could go all the way around their perimeter. They have to recognize the benefit to themselves of the big guys down in the post. We were having this conversation off air earlier today, and Dennis hit me with a couple rhetorical questions that I answered anyway, because I don't always read that cue. Because we're talking about it, he goes, all right, well, what was the best game of the last 5? Me, my overeager self, the Duke game, as if that wasn't obvious. And what happened in the Duke game? They played inside out. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to make your point for you. Stop answering these rhetorical questions. But it's exactly the point, right? In the Duke game, which, I mean, if you were to grade their last 5 games, the Duke game is like a it's probably, every once in a while, and I don't know how this happened. We didn't have these at my high schools. Somebody has like a 4.4 GPA, and I'm going, how
the weighted GPAs?
How are you above a 4.0? Like a 4.0 is perfect in my brain. How are you a 5.2? The Duke game was a 5.2 out of a 4.0 GPA. The Miami game is like a 3.0. Everything else is in the 2s, right? Everything else, you're just trying to stay eligible. You're right. You're trying to get eligible for your winter sport. So you got to pick up those grades by the end of the fall semester. It was bad, but they did have that one game that was like 105% out of 100. So look at that game. What did you do? It was down low. That was the game that was a big emergence for Armando Bacot. It was a big emergence for Harrison Ingram. And it wasn't like they were not rebounding. Like the big guys were doing the big guy thing. And it was actually a relatively quiet game for RJ Davis, particularly in the first half when you were establishing things.
He had 4 points in the first half, and they led by 10 against Duke.
It's okay to do that. And then he picked it up in the second half. That's the whole point, right? You establish one thing, it opens up the other. So in the interest of not just whining about North Carolina, which I admit I caught myself doing earlier this year, and I'm trying to rectify, right? I'm trying to make amends here. In the interest of not just whining and complaining and pointing and saying that's bad, in being a solutions-oriented show, I think the solution might be letting Armando Bacot set the tone. Letting Armando Bacot and the bigs set the tone. And I wouldn't Armando could do that scoring 16 points. Right? If he scores 10 in the first 10 minutes and then the offense runs smooth and balanced from that point forward, he doesn't have to be. I'm not asking him to go for 30 and 17. I'm just saying it's a boxer in the first round making it a physical fight, maybe a little rope-a-dope, right? A little tiring everybody out. Then, and by round 7, you're dancing, you're ollie shuffling, and you're popping them in the nose. Which is way more fun, right? And let's be real, guards in the ACC get to have the fun. They're pulling up from 3. They're doing all the acrobatic stuff. The big guys are the tone setters. So solution-oriented show. I want to see UNC play inside out for a little bit, and knowing that, you do that until it doesn't work, and then you shift back the other way. Just like a football team, right? You start establishing the run, and once teams show up on the first drive of the game with 8 guys in the box, right? Yeah, all their big linebackers on the field. Well, then you open up the game slinging it. 2-minute, no huddle. That day will come, but you gotta make them respect the run game first.